Thank you for watching this episode of Search and Rescue. My name is Seth. Today's episode, I have something to show you that I found, I guess, in the wild, you could call it. But I want to tell the story about where I got it and kind of the price and how everything went down. Maybe not so much the price, but I do want to tell where I find items from my collection. So I do have a top 5 list of recommendations and kind of how I go about finding things. So first off, a disclaimer, I'm not a big eBay buyer or any online card account fanatics or anything like that. It's one of those things where I also don't gamble on sports because I know it could be a slippery slope for me personally, so I just eliminate it at all times. Now, I use eBay all the time to check prices and comp out items if I do want to purchase something. So that's a great source that I always use. So let me go through kind of this top 5 list. The first place that I go to, and so since I don't do anything buying things online and having it mailed to me, I always do in-person purchasing. Whatever I get from my collection, I pick it up physically in my hand. All right, so all 5 of these things are kind of buying in person and usually cash. And the only reason why I do that is because I kind of set a budget and I don't want to charge anything. So that could also cause some issues if I start to buy things with money that I don't have or that's not in my budget that I set aside. So those are just ways that I kind of collect on my own. Now, you guys collect obviously however you want. That's just what I do. So number 5 on the list where I get things, garage sales and estate sales. And I know this is kind of hit and miss, but what I do is if it's like a neighborhood garage sale in the spring or summer when the weather's nice and it's like a neighborhood sale, sometimes I'll stop in there and poke around. But as you know, that's like very hit and miss. Same with estate sales. But sometimes estate sales, if you use like an app like estatesales.net, you can look at what's for sale and then just skip it. So you're just not driving to every estate sale. And I only go to sales that are near my house, within like 10 to 15 miles, I guess you would say is like max I would drive. But estate sales, if you also like books or movies, those are also good places because a lot of times I'll just say movies are $2 and books are $2 or something like that. And you could just find stuff to read and to watch. So it's not necessarily just cards that I look at. Plus, it's kind of cool to go through, especially like older mid-century modern houses where everything is like a time capsule. I love that. Number 4 on my list is antique shops or flea markets or whatever you call it in your region. And that kind of connects to what I have here today. There are people who set up booths. And again, they may have something or they may have nothing. But sometimes they will put pictures online, updating like fresh inventory or something. And you never know what you get. So there's a booth that's by my movie theater that I go to every so often. I would say maybe 4 times a year, just to kind of see what's new. A lot of times seasonally, they'll rotate out inventory and keep adding stuff. But I don't go often, but it's kind of fun just to look around. That has entertainment value in itself, I think. So here's 2 examples of things that I found that are, I used to kind of collect these things, but this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Krang. It's on the card. It's definitely not mint. It looks like Splinter, the rat, kind of nibbled on this corner. And you could see that they tore off. Probably a Toys R Us or something. If they would have just left that on, it would have been cool. A price tag. But this is from 1989. Again, not in the best shape, but it was cheap. And at the time, I collected that kind of stuff, so I picked it up. Here's something else. I love books, especially sci-fi, horror, fantasy. And this same antique shop that I went to, they'll put books on the shelf, and sometimes they look them up. I don't know the value of this, to be honest, but it was printed in 1950. It's a 1950 copy of I, Robot by Asimov, one of the Mount Rushmore of sci-fi writers. So I picked it up. I think it was $5. So I'll definitely add that to my bookshelf anytime. So antique stores, they could be hit and miss, but sometimes you'll find cards there. The next one, and again, this list is how I collect. So it may be totally different than what you would have. The next one is card stores or card shops, your local card shop. And the reason why this is number 3 on my list is because a lot of times the card shops around me, they just don't have what I collect. A lot of them have kind of shifted. The spaces have gotten smaller, and so they can only have so much inventory. And a lot of times they just don't have a lot of vintage sitting around. So they tend to have mostly modern, and some of the local card shops have even been shifting towards TCG or like Pokemon or Magic, all that kind of stuff. So I don't even mess with that. Some of them literally divide their shop in half, and half is like Pokemon and half sports cards. And again, that half of sports card is mostly modern. So I walk in there, and sometimes I'll just be there for like 5 minutes because I could just see what they have that doesn't fit what I'm looking for. The next one is card shows. And you know what you're going to get at a card show. First of all, they're all going to be cards. So it's not like an estate sale or an antique shop where you may find some cards. You're guaranteed to find cards, obviously, at a card show. Now, may not be what you want. Some of the booths may have like a gold mine for what you collect. I haven't gone to any card shows for a long time. So really, since I lived in Kansas and Chicago before that, I went to the National a couple times. And obviously, the National is like, it's like Mecca for card collectors. So obviously I had a lot of fun and picked up things from there. But there's other shows where they may be smaller and you may not find what you want. The last one is an online app, and it's Marketplace. But here's how I get around. You're probably saying, well, you said you wouldn't do eBay. Well, Marketplace, I only meet in person, and it's only within a certain radius of my house that I search. And again, Marketplace is like jumping in the ocean. You get everything from just garbage to like, it could be awesome. And sometimes the person that lists it on Marketplace knows exactly what they have, and you're willing to pay for if they have a Michael Jordan card that you want, and you're willing to pay that, you'll pay it. Sometimes people will put stuff up and they may not want to deal with it, and it may be like a small collection and they're just like $100. And so you don't know exactly what could be in there, but that's part of the fun. So sometimes I find things on Marketplace. So today's story, the pickup that I had, I was looking on Marketplace, and what's convenient about that app is if you have 5 minutes to spare, you can kind of just type in what you're looking for exactly and see what comes up and what's new or not. So there's a guy that has a booth in that antique shop that I talked about, and he would post pictures and like a video of his booth. And maybe I can see if he still has that Marketplace ad up, and maybe I can put a picture of his booth. I've been there before. He had a lot of stuff that I didn't necessarily like bobbleheads and sets of like 1992 tops, and lots of them, like 5 to 10 sets of like early 90s. And he priced them like above eBay. So sometimes I would walk in there and I would say to myself, oh yeah, this isn't for me. But one day I happened to catch his little updated picture on Marketplace, and I noticed that there was some vintage wax in there. So he must have decided to sell older stuff in his collection. And so a few things caught my eye, and I stopped in the shop, and they were all wrapped in like saran wrap, or what do you call this? Like cling wrap or whatever that you use for like putting over leftovers in your refrigerator. And the reason why is these old wax boxes didn't come sealed. So he didn't want anybody to tamper with them. So he just put his own wrap around there. And so I saw that, and I messaged him. And before I show you what exactly it was, I'll tell this story. I messaged him and said, I'm interested in your cards, but I would like to look at the packs to see if they've been searched or repacked or whatever. And if you collect wax, vintage wax, you know to look at the folds on the sides, and you can just kind of tell if it's been tampered with or not. So he was nice enough to say, I will put those 3 boxes that I was interested in up at the counter, and you can take the plastic wrap off and inspect it. And I said, awesome. So he said, later in the week, I'll do that. And I stopped by, and the person at the counter they knew I was coming. They had them set aside and allowed me to inspect it. So I unwrapped them, and I noticed that they were like perfect in what I thought, untouched. In fact, I don't even think they were taken out of the box at all. And I asked him kind of what's the story behind these. And he said that when he was in college, these came out at that time. And he, instead of going out to drink and stuff, he just spent his money on cards. And he did a lot of vending boxes and some wax boxes. And he said the wax boxes he just put away, never touched them. But he tried to put together sets from vending boxes. So here is one. It's 1984 Fleer. And I knew it was good once I took the wrap off. I opened it up, and it was kind of hard to open. Now, this side did kind of come loose because it's just old. But you notice that there's still this note in there that says, it's basically to the retailer. And it's the Fleer baseball kind of information. And these packs, the folds on these packs, and you could see on the back, they look so good. And I know you can't probably tell, but everything was in line. It doesn't even look like they've been messed with. And he said that he's never taken them out of the box. So I felt pretty good about this. I talked to the guy, and he said he said, since you took the wrapping off, I have to go and take them back home and rewrap them before I put them back in my booth. So then we started talking about price, and I noticed on his Facebook ad, he said 30% off everything in the booth. So I told him the 3 boxes I would be interested in if he still did the 30% off. All of them were marked basically below eBay, pretty well below eBay, in fact, maybe like 80% of eBay prices. And then one of them was about eBay price, and he said he would knock that down a little bit, and then took 30% off. So I got that. So I got 84 Fleer. And so this obviously has Mattingly, and that's my favorite player. So if I decide to open this, I want to get a Mattingly. 83 Fleer. So this has the big 3, Boggs, Sandberg, and Gwynn. And I open that up, and it still has these 2 bonus packs at the top. So it says, Mr. Retailer, you get 2 free bonus. Apparently there weren't any women, female. retailers that they just assumed. And then I got this 1982 Don Russ with the Ripken. So I have early 80s wax boxes that I love to have in my collection. And this is the kicker. The guy said, since I have to take these home anyway and rewrap them, I found out where he lived, or he asked me where I live, and he lived very near me. So we just met within like a couple miles of my house, and we did the deal there, which kind of saved taxes and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of helped each other out that way. So I wanted to go over this search and rescue story. If you haven't watched any of my videos, I collect 80s Hall of Famers, Michael Jordan, and like vintage wax boxes and packs. So I think I'm gonna open stuff on my channel. That'll be future videos, but I did want to share the story behind these 3 items. So here's your lesson. Pop into some of those antique stores or flea markets and look at booths, and don't be afraid to get the information of the booth vendor and reach out to see if they'll take like 30% off like this guy did, and maybe even let you inspect some of the items before you buy them. So there you go. Those are my favorite places that I like to shop in person, and really cool deals. And I got these all after that 30% off, about 55% of eBay prices. So the guy was happy with, he had already set the prices. He came down a little bit on one, and then he was gracious enough to take 30% off, and I met him in person. Great guy, older gentleman. We talked about cards, and I told him that Don Mattingly was my favorite, and he was kind of happy that this was going to me. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe. I have a Michael Jordan giveaway going on if I get 200 subscribers, and I'm only at 6 currently. So please hit the subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.